Welcome. Settle into a comfortable position, whether you're lying down or sitting up. If it feels right, gently close your eyes. Take a slow, deep breath in. Feel your chest rise as your lungs fill. Then softly exhale, letting go of any tension you've been holding. Before we continue, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, let me know where you're from and what time you're watching it. Always great to connect with you. Now, take another deep breath in and exhale slowly, releasing any lingering stress. Feel your shoulders relax, your jaw loosen, and the tension in your forehead fade away. With each breath, notice your body growing heavier, sinking deeper into relaxation. Let your mind drift freely, like a leaf floating on a calm, steady stream, carried effortlessly. Simply listen to the sound of my voice and allow yourself to be gently guided. It was a cold, moonless night when I boarded the last train to Ravenswood, the kind of night where the air feels heavy, like it's pressing down on you, and the shadows seem to stretch just a little too far. I didn't know it then, but that train, it wasn't just a train. It was a gateway to something far darker. The ticket was cheap, too cheap, really. And the caretaker at the station, there was something off about him. He handed me the ticket with a shaky hand, his eyes darting around like he was afraid someone or something might be watching. "It's the last one," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "After this, there's no turning back." I didn't think much of it at the time. I was too eager to leave my old life behind, to start fresh in a place where no one knew my name. But as the train pulled away from the station, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The car was nearly empty, save for a handful of passengers scattered throughout. They sat in silence, their faces obscured by shadows and the dim glow of the overhead lights. I chose a seat near the back, close to the door, and settled in for the long ride. But as the train rattled deeper into the forest, I began to notice strange things. The air grew colder, the shadows longer. The other passengers didn't move, didn't speak. They just sat there, staring straight ahead, as if waiting for something. And then, I heard a faint whisper, barely audible over the sound of the train. It came from the seat behind me, a voice I couldn't quite make out. I turned to look, but the seat was empty. I told myself it was just my imagination, just the stress of the journey. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The whispers grew louder as the train plunged deeper into the forest. They seemed to come from all around me, a chorus of voices speaking in hushed, urgent tones. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable fear, desperation, regret. I tried to ignore them, to focus on the rhythmic clatter of the train. But then I saw a woman sitting across the aisle, her face pale and drawn, her eyes fixed on something I couldn't see. She was dressed in old-fashioned clothes, her hair pinned up in a style that hadn't been popular in decades. "Excuse me," I said, my voice trembling. Are you okay?" She didn't respond. She just sat there, staring into the distance, her lips moving silently as if reciting a prayer. I reached out to touch her shoulder, but my hand passed right through her, as if she were made of smoke. I stumbled back, my heart pounding. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. I looked around the car, and for the first time, I noticed the other passengers, their faces pale, their eyes hollow, their clothes out of another time. They weren't alive. They were ghosts. I had to know the truth. I searched the train for clues, desperate to understand what was happening. In the conductor's cabin, I found an old ledger, its pages yellowed with age. It listed the names of passengers who had boarded the train over the years, passengers who had never arrived at their destination. One name stood out, Eleanor Ravenswood. The name was familiar, but I couldn't place it. I searched my memory, and then it hit me. Ravenswood wasn't just the name of the town. It was the name of the family who had owned the forest, the train, and the land it traveled through. The Ravenswoods had been wealthy, powerful, and deeply secretive. They had disappeared decades ago, their estate abandoned, their legacy forgotten. But the train, The train had never stopped running. I returned to my seat, the ledger clutched in my hands. The ghosts were still there, their whispers growing louder, more desperate. They were trying to tell me something, but I couldn't understand. And then I saw her, Eleanor Ravenswood. She stood at the front of the car, her eyes filled with sorrow, her hand outstretched, as if beckoning me to follow. "Help us," she whispered. "Help us find peace." I followed Eleanor through the train, past the silent, staring ghosts, to a door at the very end of the car. It was locked, but the key was in the ledger, tucked between the pages like a secret waiting to be discovered. I turned the key, and the door creaked open. Inside was a small, dimly lit room, its walls covered in photographs and newspaper clippings. They told the story of the Ravenswoods, their rise to power, their fall from grace, and the tragedy that had claimed their lives. The train had been their final journey, a desperate attempt to escape the curse that had plagued their family for generations, but they had never made it. The train had derailed, plunging into the forest, and all aboard had perished. But their souls had never moved on. They were trapped, bound to the train by the curse, doomed to relive their final moments for eternity. Eleanor stood beside me, her eyes filled with tears. "You have to break the curse," she said. "You have to set us free." I didn't know how, but I knew I had to try. I searched the room for clues, and then I saw Ita, small, ornate box, its surface covered in strange symbols. Inside was a key, old and tarnished, but still gleaming with a faint, otherworldly light. "This is it," Eleanor whispered. "This is the key to our freedom." I took the key and returned to the front of the train. The ghosts were waiting, their whispers growing louder, more urgent. They knew what was at stake. I inserted the key into the control panel, and the train shuddered to a halt. The lights flickered, then went out, plunging the car into darkness. For a moment, there was silence. And then, one by one, the ghosts began to fade, their forms dissolving into the air like smoke. Eleanor was the last to go. She smiled at me, her eyes filled with gratitude, and then she was gone. The train was empty, the curse broken. But as I stepped off the train and into the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. The whispers were gone, but the forest was alive, with shadows, their shapes shifting and twisting in the moonlight. I didn't know where I was, or how I would get home, but I knew one thing: I had set the ghosts free. But at what cost?